It is a beautiful Wednesday morning brought to you courtesy of your channel of prosperity, Send Home. Now, Send Home is your one favorite option for ensuring that you fuel your loved ones' dreams and ambitions from South Africa all the way, sending love home to Zimbabwe with some of the lowest rates on the market. Have you downloaded their app? Well, you can get access to it using any of the download platforms on your phone, whether you're on Android and you use the App Store or you're on Apple and you use the iOS Apple Store. Then you absolutely can enjoy the benefits of using Send Home to send love home to your loved ones. Send whatever it is that they need to get their dreams going and to get yours as well. If you need somebody to help you get your dreams flowing, then Send Home is definitely your remittance service of choice. Now, they are allowing us this morning to sit down with an ever so phenomenal young lady. Her name is Merilyn, and we're about to get to know a little bit more about this artistic young individual. Good morning.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
Thank you for coming.
Sure.
So tell me something. Did you scribble on walls like as a child?
No, I was too disciplined for that.
What?
I didn't scribble on walls, but I did scribble on other things.
Oh.
So I was very good at drawing. Whether it was, class exercises,
yeah,
and they ask you to do, draw a little
stick
bird or whatnot,
people and
whatever it is, and I always drew better than everyone else.
Is this you tweeting your own horn?
I'm not. I'm being honest. I'm being very honest.
I wish I'd asked you to bring pictures because now I feel like we need evidence of this. I was the
from
best.
primary school. Maybe if I call my mom and ask her, she might have something from primary school.
So, did you develop a love for the art very young, or is it something that you then actually just tapped into as you got older?
I did. So, because it came naturally to me, I didn't have to think about whether or not I loved it. But I suppose only when I got older and I realized that I could actually do this for a living, or this didn't have to just be a hobby or something that I did on the side. I could actually pursue this. So I thought, okay, sure, why not?
Why not?
I was at a school that encouraged that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely went for it.
I love that you mentioned you were at a school that encouraged that, because it's a culture that's I think it's slowly fading in our schools, where all elements of education are appreciated, including the arts. I know I also went to a school that was very big on promoting art culture. So you had a very active drama club, you had a very active art club, you had all these little things that fed into your artsy self. How do you think that kind of helped to shape who you have become today?
Fully and completely. So one of the things that they really pushed was for you to get into what you're about. So if you're science oriented, that's what you'd get into. And I was good at art. I was good at art and architecture and things along those lines. And so they would have these parent-teacher meetings. They'd have these career day things, and I didn't know that this is something I could do. So they encouraged it, and I eventually just moved from high school on to university, and I studied fine arts for my undergraduate, and that was sort of the basis of everything that I've now become. Yeah.
Tell me something, just a little segue. Curator and meeting.
I love that. Okay, so to curate is defined as to take care of. So curator ano chengeta, ano to take care of. But in this sense, ano to take care of art, so fine art. So the curator is the person who researches on art, who writes about art, who sets up the exhibitions. If you walk into a gallery and there's an exhibition that's up, it's not just kutipani muna turika, my paintings, there's a whole thing connected to that. There's it is argued that the curator is an artist as well, because in order for you to walk into a gallery space and see something you like, someone has to do that. And usually the artist are limited to what they're able to do. So they paint, and then they're just like, oh, here's all my paintings.
It is, you figure out what to do with it.
Exactly.
You figure out how to make it flow and make sense. Now, in this instance, you are both artist and curator. So you kind of also just have that in mind as you're going about your art, and like, how does it flow from, not just from my putting it on canvas perspective, but also if I'm to put it up for somebody to, without me being present, for somebody to just kind of understand what I was trying to do or interpret it in a sequence that makes sense.
I don't actually do that. So this sounds very interesting. I've worked as a curator for 7 years. And I only last year decided to tap into the artistic side of me, although I specifically studied art. I decided to go into the research, academia, curating type of things. And I found it very difficult to marry the two, the curator and the artist. And I still haven't found a middle ground there. So I rather have someone else curate for me, because it feels like I can't get into those two spaces in one. So
what do you think your blockage is? What do you think is?
I'll tell you what happened when I started painting. I started painting as if I was a curator, because I was so aware of the conversations and the narratives around art academia, because I read things and I write things, so I'm also a writer. And so I was very aware of what, let's say, conceptual art is and how it is viewed by other academics and curators and things along those lines. And so I tried to create art as a curator, and I realized, no, there was a problem there. And so I started curating art as an artist from my heart, without thinking. And so because of that, it's easier for me to get someone else to look into and read into my work, although I'm very good at looking into and reading into other people's work. So I think for now, I'm quite happy with those two. Like, it's almost like alter egos. Like, I'm fine with it as it is.
So you say you just recently started exploring the painting side of you. What have you enjoyed about it so far? Like, what have you discovered about yourself as you venture into this semi-new space?
Everything that made me start art in the first place. So it is a space of rest and comfort and peace and absolute self-expression for me. And I rediscovered that when I started painting again, such that my very first ever canvas artwork, I gifted it to my mom. And it was very funny because it felt like someone had just split my heart open, and you can literally see everything. And when I showed her the work, she very well interpreted how I was feeling when I created it. And so it literally makes me feel raw every time I create something, because I feel like I've just left a little piece of me with whoever it is gets to have a look and see my work and experience it.
Talk to me a little bit about your paint processes. Like, have you figured out what kind of painter you are, what you enjoy doing? Have you found that space?
I have. Yeah. I have. So I like the idea of layering. Meaning behind meaning, and things behind things, and things in front of things. And you can see that in a lot of my artwork. There's a lot of double meaning and layering in it. And especially when I do murals, you can see a little Afrofuturistic vibe in that, which I really, really like. This idea of a reimagined purpose and future for African spaces. So you can definitely see those elements within my work.
What do we see in terms of growth for the art space, the visual art space in Zimbabwe? Do we have that appreciation for it?
We do. Of course, it's a niche type of subject and a niche type of space. But I'd say that, first of all, the government is doing an amazing job with how they have been exploring the other type of subjects within schools with this new curriculum. I think that is wonderful. And it allows for this generation that's learning something, by the time they get to their 20s and 30s, they have a much more interesting and better appreciation of art than, say, our parents, because they hardly know anything. It's very funny that I still find people who think that, no, you have to be a weedhead in order for you to be an artist.
Yet not at all.
And not at all. So I think that because of a lot of exposure that people are getting, people travel, they come back, a lot more galleries that are out there, and a lot more art that is public, right? Public art spaces. I think that is allowing people to have a much better appreciation of art than they used to.
All right. I could talk to you all morning. You're so much fun to talk to. Thank you so much for sitting down with us. Very quickly, where do we find you if we want to follow your process?
Sure. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at @a_twist_art and at a Artstruck Soul.
Wow.
Two.
Merilyn, thank you so much for sitting down with us this morning. Of course, that conversation was brought to you courtesy of our friends at Send Home, your channel for prosperity, allowing you to send your heart home.